So, good morning, and welcome to a vlog that you probably didn't expect if you had watched last week's video. And if you haven't watched last week's video, there's a link just up there, it's worth a watch. And where I was at a place called Flamborough Head, near Flamborough, funnily enough, which is up on the northeast coast near Scarborough. And it is a little bit of a peninsula that comes out. There's a lighthouse and there's loads of cool stuff to go there and photograph. And I did make a video on photographing the lighthouse and getting the beams of light and everything like that, but it got super windy and very difficult to do. Here's a short clip of it. I think it might be too windy for that light. I'll give it a try. Nope. Wasn't easy that night. So I decided, instead of going through the process of me trying to make a decent video out of really bad footage and voice and lights falling over and cameras shaking and wobbling and stuff, I thought instead of doing that, what I'd do is I would show you how I create video, an editing video. And here is the finished product. Check it out. This is what we're going to be learning to create today. The shooting part of it, if you'd like, I can do another video. I can go down again and do another video on how I captured this. But this is the final result on what I did from editing. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's jump into that. The first thing that I've got along the bottom of the screen is I've got lots of pictures of the lighthouse in different locations firing out them beams of light. Now I could quite easily just pick two or three of these, put them together and stuff like that, but I don't just want to do that. What I want to do is I want to collect a selection of them where the light beams are facing similar directions, and then choose maybe a cross or maybe a little bit of a bike spoke. But what I don't necessarily want is lots of beams just coming off willy-nilly. So I'm going to go through them, I'm going to choose a selection of them that are quite similar. But before I do that, I am going to choose one that I like, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a pre-edit on it. And I quite like this one here. So to do this, I'm going to bring up them highlights. I'm not going to drop the shadows, I'm going to bring up them whites. I want them highlights and them beams to be real bright. I might add a little bit of a yellowy tone, maybe give it a little bit of a warmer glow. I think that might look quite nice. I'm going to up my contrast. No, I'm not going to up my contrast, I don't like what that did. Saturation, don't need to do that. Maybe a little bit of clarity, bring out them brights again. And then come down to my tone curve. Again, bring up them highlights, bring up them lights. And it is going to be blown out in that very center part. But I'm not worried about that. It should be bright. It makes sense that it's bright. So I'm going to leave that as it is. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come down to lens correction, remove chromatic aberration. There might not have been, but it's never a bad idea. And then because I'm working with such dark stuff, I'm going to come into detail. I'm going to drop my sharpening because I don't need to sharpen light. Sharpening light just adds noise and doesn't actually help with that final image. But what I am going to do is I'm going to come down to noise reduction and add, I don't know, 13% luminance. Have a little zoom in. You can see it's still a bit grainy, but it's hard not to be in them sort of conditions. And I've raised them saturations quite a lot and that darkness quite a lot. So I'm going to raise, let's go 30% on the noise reduction, and that looks so much better. And it doesn't matter if the lighthouse is a little bit soft at this point, because what I'm editing for is not so much the lighthouse but more them light beams, and I like them. They look good. Maybe a little bit hot in the center, but we'll see if we can remove that a little bit later. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the different light beams and I'm going to choose ones that I like. Okay, so I'm going to give them a little 1 star at the bottom to say that I like it. And I'm looking for ones that line up with what I've already captured. And I think we're about golden there. So now I'm going to go back to my original shot, the one that I have edited. I'll select that, then I'm going to press Command, and I'm going to click on all the ones that I've given a 1 star to, and then what I'll do is I will sync them. So by pressing this button just here, sync them, sync everything, boom. Now they've all got the same edit on each one, which is good. That's what I'd like it to do. Now the next part is I'm going to get these, I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to open them up in layers in Photoshop, and you'll see why. Now I'm going to cut through. I imagine my computer has opened them up straight away, so here it is, and okay, so there we are. In the future, everything has loaded up. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these. So I'm going to press Shift, click, and I've selected them all. Then I'm going to right click on them, and I'm going to put Convert to Smart Object. Again, let's jump into the future, because this takes time. The future, again, don't you love editing? Saves you so much time. Anyway, so now I've got everything down here in a lovely group in a smart object. It's all been converted, so that means that everything's been stacked, and now I can edit them all together as one. So now the way I get all of them light beams on there, it's not through layer masking and brushing it in and this, that and the other. Way smarter than that, and you can use this on so many different techniques. You can. So I come up here to layer, I come down to smart object, and I come across here to stack mode, and I come to maximum. And what maximum is going to do is it's going to choose all the highlights from all the different layers, and then it's going to smash them into one. So boom, let's see how this looks. Look at that. So we've gone from this to this. Isn't that marvellous? Like, we've got light beams coming off front, back, left, right, a little one horizontal, quite like that. I'm a fan. And it just looks powerful. The lighthouse looks powerful, but there is one big problem with this, and it's not necessarily the lighthouse. The lighthouse looks great, but look at this big dark patch of land just down here. But the fact it's dark is great. It's going to be really useful. So we're going to go back to Lightroom, and I have got a couple of foreground shots, not that one, a couple of foreground shots, not that one. Sorry, I've done this edit a couple of times. A couple of foreground shots. So I've got this one here, and I quite like this. It's quite bright. Or I can go to this one, which is a little bit more subtle and dark. Okay, we're going to go with this one here, and we're going to edit this one. We're going to do a few little minor adjustments. So first of all, actually, believe it or not, we're actually going to bring down them highlights, because it was looking a little bit bright in places, a little bit dark in places. So we're going to bring down them highlights. We're going to lift them shadows. But remember, it's still nighttime, so we don't want to overlift them shadows. So lift them a little bit, maybe bring down them whites, but let's lift them darks a little bit. There we go, that's looking absolutely lovely. And then just give it a little bit of dehaze, adding some contrast to it. We're not going to touch the vibrance or the saturation, because I really like that tone that's coming through there. I think that's absolutely lovely. And I think that is all I really want to do. I might add a bit of luminance noise reduction. I'm going to leave a little bit of sharpening on there. I might go up to 68%, and then let's take it away from the sky and make it into the land object. So let's have a little look, see how that's looking. That's looking nice. And then remove some chromatic aberration, just in case there is some. It never hurts to click that button. Then we're going to open this one up in Photoshop. Okay, so now it's open in Photoshop. I'm going to come down here, I'm going to turn it into a layer. So double click on there, click the OK. Don't forget, before you drag it across, what we are going to do is we're going to flatten this smart object, because when it comes to trying to select the darkness in there, it's just going to be easier if it's flattened, because we're happy with how this is. We don't need to change that. Now I'm going to come across here, I'm going to grab this and drop it just in here. Line them up. I trust the fact that I've not adjusted anything. I'm going to bring the dark layer above just like so. And now I'm going to use a luminance mask, and the luminosity I'm going to choose for this is a dark luminosity. Okay, so I'm going to come into composite, I'm going to come into dark, which is going to select the dark areas. Okay, so that is, as you can see, selected all of this stuff across the bottom, and that's going to be perfect. Then I'm going to come down to the modify slider. I want to select even more if I can. Make them blacks even blacker and select more. There we are. And I don't need the sky selected because I don't want to mess with them light beams. So I'm going to come over to this button just here, which is just basically a really thick black paintbrush. And that means none of that is going to be selected. So I've selected that sky and it's looking absolutely great. I've tried not to adjust any of this, and I don't want to make that completely white. I want it to be just the highlights, just the dark part, sorry. Then I'm going to come down to here, select. Then I'm just going to put a layer mask over it. And then I'm going to press Command I and invert that layer mask. And now what's happened is I have got the lighthouse with the land. The land is lit up, the lighthouse is lit up. Everything's still looking a bit dark yet though. So I'm just going to come up to here, and then I'm going to start doing some dodging and burning. But I thought that this was going on way too long, so what I decided to do was to speed up a little bit at 8 times the speed. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a faster experience with the dodging and burning. But I'm just going to go back through my little tiles and show you how much it has affected what I've done through my luminosity painting. Like, there we are. So dark nighttime sky, bland flat foreground, again bland flat foreground, and this is what it could have been. This is one long exposure. Boom, look at that. It looks great. If I do say so myself. I like it anyway. But I'll give it a little crop, a resize, and here is the final image. Now I hope you've enjoyed this video. It wasn't the video I was hoping to produce, but the conditions were just not playing ball. But if you would like to see me come back to Flamborough and actually film the photographing and the process of how I captured this image, feel free to let me know in the comments below, because I can do that. It's not a problem at all. For you guys, not a problem. But that is going to be all from me this week. I hope you have a lovely week, and going back to work is not too harsh. I hope it's not. I hope it's not. But yeah, peace out, people.